How are you guys doing? My name is Patrick. I represent Midwest Vintage and Heavy Seven Hearts. I'm here with Jeronne Maymon, a superstar in my eyes, but he's an athlete. Now he's doing a lot of financial literacy. We're going to ask him a few questions. So, man, how was it growing up in Madison?
Oh man, Madison. It was a fast time. You think I have a conversation all the time about early 2000s and then just leading into 2010. The world was different.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think we operated different, and we were naive to a lot of things. But Madison was awesome, man. Got parented by the whole block. I was more so a West Side, South Side kid growing up, and you get a chance to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life, and they imprint on you and make you who you are over time. So I'm grateful for my opportunity just to be able to grow up in an environment that was really for my betterment. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And, I always come home to Madison. I feel like I ain't missed a beat.
Hey, and what was the teams that you were playing on? Like your AAU team, was it the Madison Spartans?
Yeah, come on.
Yep,
Man. You got a
yep,
lot of
okay.
The Madison Spartans, that's a MSB is a pillar in the community. Granted, it may have kind of fell to the wayside as of late. I
Yep.
think there's a lot of different programs in the city, but I think MSB kind of founded a lot of or catapulted a lot of individuals to doing what they're doing now, even just in that space as far as mentoring and giving back. There's a lot of individuals that played a pivotal role into my success.
Okay. And what type of student were you, man?
So that's a colorful history.
Yep.
And just to be totally transparent, it was one of those things where growing up, me being good at sports, I didn't put an emphasis on school.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have to, because a lot of times when you're positioned in a certain manner, a lot of things are done for you. You know what I mean? And a lot of things was taken off my plate because I was good at sports.
Yeah.
And so my mindset was I didn't have to put forth the necessary effort to be able to accomplish the things that I wanted because it was going to kind of come to me anyways. It kind of took me a long time to get to a point where I realized I was smart,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous to say, but I say it often. I got to college and I started realizing, okay, if I study, I'll get good grades. And that concept never clicked to me when I was in, high school or anything like that. And it was one of those things where it's like, until you're forced to really take a real authentic look at yourself, you'll never really know what you're capable of because, outside opinions will influence how you view yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I was in school. But in high school, it was more so C's and D's. It wasn't good,
Yeah.
bro. It really wasn't. But I was able, and I had enough in me to ensure that I didn't have to go the JUCO route. Right?
Okay.
It was a summer I had to take a summer off from playing AAU basketball.
Yep.
It was my junior. It was my senior year going into my senior year. I didn't play, and that hurt me.
Yeah.
But I needed to get my grades right, and that's
Yep.
a sacrifice you kind of got to make when you're not prioritizing your grades on the front end.
Okay. Who were some athletes that you were looking up to?
Oh man, in the city or just in general?
We could do both because I think we had a good culture back then more than we do now.
Yeah. I grew up in a crazy time. Like MSB, I kind of seen everybody kind of come through there.
Yep.
I seen the Jackson twins, like what they was doing. Some Tony Monroe, what he was able to accomplish in that short period of time. Like he was really pivotal in a lot of transitions that happened here in Madison. A lot of people don't give him respect, but Corvon Gaines was a real dog back in the day. People sleep on him, but it was a lot of guys that I played with. They kind of just inspired me to be better, want to be better. Orange sharpens iron. You know how that kind of go. And so, as far as pros, it was more so Kobe, Bryant.
Okay.
The normal goats in the conversation. But basketball really wasn't even my first love, to be honest.
Okay, what were you playing?
I wasn't a sports guy.
Okay.
What was crazy is my brother's a year older than me, and he was into basketball. As a young man, you get to a point where you're gonna follow your little brother around. You're gonna follow what they do, and so I kind of found myself in the gym all the time with him. And so I picked up a ball, and the rest is kind of history from there. I realized I was good at it. Okay. And then that kind of sparked a lot of interest from there.
How important was your dad being in your life? As in sports and just as a young man?
That's a unique question because it's like, my dad. A lot of people know my dad in the city. And he, if you know me, you know my dad, especially if you've been to any game, you either love him or you hate him, because he gonna stand on what he stand on and he gonna mean it. It was very important because it really showed me a lot of things that I didn't know I needed. You know what I mean? And sometimes we go around in life, we looking for answers, but we don't even know the questions that we need to ask to get the answer that we need at that particular point in time. And my dad, just being a man of a man, it's not in every man to really be able to lead men, you know what I mean, or instill values that lead men to lead men. And I think he has some of those qualities that really empowered me to be myself, you know what I mean, because I'm an introvert, but then again, I'm an extrovert depending on what the environment is telling me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he was very pivotal in just my growth into becoming who I am.
The first LeVar Ball, huh?
Hey, me and my brother talk about it all the time. It's like, you know, but I think what happens on different, it happens all across the world. There's always dads in there, you know, empowering their kids to be the greatest they can be. But then again, it goes back to structure and then resources, right? And a lot of that is how you move from A to B. And I think, you know, life is funny. You know, so you gotta take your lumps and kind of keep building from there.
Okay. And again, going off of that, who were some of your bigger influences in your life?
I'm big on mentorship. So I got the mentors that I have in my life. If I were to name them, you guys wouldn't even know them. You know, a lot of these men are occupying positions, whether it's in the spiritual space or it's more so in the business space, or even just my day-to-day life on how I operate. I lean on men who are older, who are married, who are doing things the way I would want to do it in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And so the biggest thing I can advocate for is just mentorship. Find you somebody that you trust, you can confide in, and obviously that can view your life from an objective space and give you real concrete advice to help you be 1% better. And whatever field you're doing, whether it's business or it's personal.
So what were you known for besides sports when in high school?
That's a unique question because in high school, you know, I'm either I wasn't a good student, so I had to be something. I was a class clown for the most part. You know, I was one of those guys that everybody, you know, loved to be around, wanted to be around. I was in the hallways, unfortunately, without a pass. But you know, the difference between me and then another student being able to do the same things is that I understood the game within the game. I think a lot of times we are oblivious to that fact and we try to opt out of playing the game as humans. Like, the game is inevitable. You can't not play. You know what I mean? If you do that, you just put yourself in a more vulnerable position to lose. You know what I mean?
So in high school, man, being at Madison Memorial, you guys had a dynasty. So what was that experience like, being on that team, having so much success? Like, y'all were celebrities at that time.
Oh, man, I don't know about celebrities, granted, because when you playing and you hooping, you don't really, like, granted, I speak for myself. I only can speak from my purview. I didn't never view myself as a celebrity. You know, I know people would want to take pictures, sign autographs. I thought it was more so a service that I was providing, obviously just with the skill that God gave me. So I never viewed it like that. And the people that were on my team, we were so humble. I think it's we still get shocked at it because when we see other people, we don't see what they see. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times that's either good or bad because sometimes we're like we're humans too, and then again we may not understand this fan's excitement or this person's excitement surrounding seeing us, and it can kind of come off in a hurtful manner. But it was you know, when you going through that process, bro, you just enjoying it, especially you a kid. And now what these kids are going through as far as like the cameras in their faces in their high schools, they're getting documentaries, they're getting NIL money. It's on a total different level than what we were, but we didn't have cameras back then and all those things at that level where it was like, okay, we're going to record everything and get so much footage. That's one of the, not really regrets, but things I wish I would have done more of is got more footage with my guys, more behind the scenes, like bus rides, you know, trips, hotels, all those things, and just us having conversations, us being together, us being young, and us just, you know, growing. I think that's one of the things I missed out on.
What was it like playing with Vander Blue? Because just the perspective of it was like Kobe and Shaq. Like, he was doing his thing and then you dump it down to you and you just dominating. And then you had other key pieces like Trey Creamer and other players of that nature. But what was it like playing with someone like himself?
Man, it was what's crazy is me and Van, we grew up together. I think I'm a year older than him, and obviously we played on the same AAU team. We used to spend a night over each other's house. Obviously, we traveled, and it's like when you building a team. Some coaches, they want to stay with those players every year they move up. We had that coach that kept staying with us as we moved up, and so we was able to keep the group together.
Yep.
So we had that cohesiveness very young, and by the time we was getting on, grand stage, national stages, we was dominating teams. And it's like you can't really teach chemistry to young players. They got to kind of figure it out on themselves. And that was one of those things where as much as we was together, our families are close. So I would see him outside of practice. I would see him outside of games. And so we were always just building a unity. And I think that's kind of what helped us once we got to high school. Because originally we weren't all supposed to go to Memorial, which is crazy. That's a whole story. Obviously, I checked the book out for that.
Yep.
No, but seriously, we all was in different locations. And we kind of had a conversation about what we wanted high school to look like. You know what I mean? I was actually living in Middleton at the time, and it was one of those things where me and my brother was supposed to go to Middleton High School, but it was none but God, obviously, that ordained how he did, and the rest is kind of history.
Okay, and so what I remember, man, why didn't you end up going to Wisconsin?
Oh man,
I know it's
that's a real deal conversation for another day.
Okay,
but like the short story is, I had a game. And then a reporter, he posed a question about Wisconsin versus Marquette or that kind of rivalry and that kind of thing. And obviously, originally I was committed to Marquette out of high school. And then I'm like 16, 17. I'm not as bright as a lot of people like to think. And then the reporter, he asks a question. So I'm being naive as a young man. I'm just gonna answer it how I feel. I said some things that may not have just aligned with what I felt. But ultimately, I didn't say anything bad. I said Marquette is more fast-paced versus what Wisconsin plays in a systematic, slower swing system.
Which is obvious.
Yeah, but the reporter kind of, like I said, he twisted the words and he made it, sound way more, crazy
in depth
than what it was.
And
the rest is history. Like, they kind of started recruiting me, and I didn't have a feeling about it. But at the end of the day, Wisconsin is a great university. They produce great players, and obviously, I know a lot of individuals over there, so I'm always respectful to them.
And so going to Marquette, what was that experience like? Being in Milwaukee, it's a little bigger than Madison. You got the Bucks down there, and man, it was one of those places where you had Dwayne Wade coming out of there. I think Wesley was still there or just leaving, and so they had a little whip, especially from the Midwest.
Yeah, man. Marquette it'll always hold a special place in my life just because I went there, right? And it was the decision that I chose to embark on, but ultimately what made me leave was just I was naive in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? And there was a coaching change that kind of happened, and I didn't really take that into account because I always felt that, what adults say, especially coaches, and this is like a big message for a lot of young players or a lot of young athletes that's going on recruiting visits or that's dealing with coaches. These coaches, they have a duty to do, they have a job, and it's important that you understand that. It's not that they want to do you a disservice or they don't want to, play your son or make sure that they can achieve everything they are destined to. It's that they got a job to do, and it's a business at the end of the day. And that's one of the things that I didn't realize early on. I thought it was more so, this is my family, right? But at the end of the day, family got to show and prove, especially when you're not bloodline. And so me going there, like I said, I was naive in a lot of ways, and I let a lot of things kind of get to me that normally wouldn't get to me. But I'm like, this is hometown cooking. You know what I mean? Gatorade playing the year 2 times.
Bro, you were, yes.
But I'm just thinking, like, me being home, I'm going to have an opportunity to really showcase my God-given abilities. But I think, like I said, I had the wrong mindset going in, and they had the wrong mindset surrounding what they wanted from me. We just weren't on the same page. And I wish, at some level, in another alternate reality that I could have stayed.
Yeah.
And obviously, Van came the next year. I got a lot of guys over there, DJO, Dwight Bikes, and, Jay Crowder came the year after. And so we was, and Jimmy Butler was a part of the initial team that I played with.
Yep.
So I played with a lot of guys there, and there are a lot of guys that I love to play with. That chemistry, like I said, you can't teach. It was with those guys. But at the end of the day, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to go transition into a new school that still had, the same level of care and concern that I had for my own self. So
yeah, and we're gonna talk about that. So being at Tennessee, man, I remember when you were at the Hawaii tournament, bro. I think it was 30-30, right?
Oof, it was 32-20.
Oh man, I remember that because I watched that game throughout, and I was just, man, as I mentioned before, I was a big fan of yours. And so I was super excited to see you go to Tennessee. It was in the SEC. You were stronger. I felt like you was really pitting it as you were in high school. So what was that experience like being in Tennessee and in the SEC?
Man, Tennessee was one of those things where it kind of felt surreal. You know what I mean? Because you watch it on TV, and obviously the Big East was the Big East. But SEC basketball is a little different. It's more glamorized. It's more big lights. And I really gravitated to that. And so I enjoy the big stage. But being in a new city, a new state with new expectations, I just had to really focus on who I wanted to be there. You know what I mean? Because at any rate, every level of your life gonna prepare you for your next step.
Yep.
And I felt like what I went through and endured at Marquette, I couldn't allow that to happen at Tennessee. And so I went in there with the mindset that I'm gonna be coachable and teachable, but I'm also gonna really establish my dominance early, and that's what I did. With those guys, because a lot of those guys were older. It was an older team. It was a great team, by the way, but an older team, and I had to really make sure I imprinted on who I wanted them to connect with. You know what I mean? So I had to do my own due diligence of self-reflection and analyzation of my skills and obviously my mindset.
And not to kind of go in a negative space, but what was it like to have so many injuries that were like, man, because from you were NBA prospect to then, man, your knees just kind of went out on you. And so as a kid, being you chasing your dreams and getting to like right there, man, how did you handle that?
The injuries, it was weird because I've never been injured before. Right? I felt like Superman up until that point. And when it first happened, I was still kind of debating myself if it was real. Like, nah, I'm gonna be good. It's gonna be something small. I'm gonna bounce back. And then I had another setback where it kept me out a year. I had the red shirt. I caught an infection in my knee. They had to go in and clean everything out. So that's what ultimately derailed my junior season. And then from that standpoint, I had a couple more, and it was just hard for me to get back to the level that I was. But what was funny about that is, like I just said, every level of your life gonna prepare you for your next one. I went through a dark period, like 3 to 6 months of just feeling bad for myself, on and off. But it was more so me, keep debating with myself, like, am I gonna be strong enough to take what just happened and be better, or I'm gonna let this, kind of linger and woe is me kind of mindset. And I had a great support group. I think I wouldn't have really made it through if I didn't have a lot of those individuals to call me or check in on me or make sure I was good, because you think a lot of things when you're in a dark place, right? You start to look at life from a pessimistic viewpoint where everything is just like, it ain't gonna go that way, or you just look at it from a negative standpoint. I was blessed enough to be able to come up out of that and be better from it. Like my body wasn't able to really get back to the level of playing that I wanted it to be, but my mind was so much stronger. Like I understood myself so much better, going through those moments, those days, those weeks of just not feeling good about my future. And so I had to make a choice. It was really just me making a choice. And the biggest thing I can encourage anybody listening to this is to really just let go of what you had in mind for your future. You know what I mean? There's a lot of futures that's going to present themselves every day, right? And that's meaning we one choice away from a totally different life. And that's good, bad, or indifferent. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, the opportunity is always there. You know what I mean? For you to go take advantage of whatever you say you want, but it's how you look at it. You know what I mean? So I made that choice to really say, sports may not be the thing that gets me to the place that I ultimately wanted to be, but how can I take what's happened to me and look at it from a standpoint of a point of realization and be better from it? And that's what I did. And so ultimately, it allowed me to go play overseas, live in Israel for about a year. I lived in Japan for a year or two. I played, some good basketball, but ultimately, sports long term wasn't in the cards. So, but I already knew that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
This video is sponsored by Heavy 7 Hearts. Everything is one of one or exclusive. Our mission is to change the world one trend at a time. If you go to our website, you will see Proud to Pay. This item is for all of our customers that want to support us in our mission. Thank you guys, and we appreciate you. So what is it like? What is life after sports?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that being, people treat you different. Life is different. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah. So it's funny, man, because character speaks volumes, right? And no matter what, character gonna be character. And I say that to say, me being out of sports, I'm still able to leverage who I was, right? I've always been a great person. I've always been respectful. I always respected my environment and myself. And then again, I played, anytime I stepped on the court, I played with passion, and people, they, especially real sports fans, they gravitate to their players, their favorite players, because they identify with certain characteristics or attributes. And it was one of those things where me living, back in Tennessee where I played, me being home, wherever I'm at, people come up to me, they say, man, hey, I don't remember the game, but I remember how you made me feel when you did X, Y, and Z. And I think that holds a lot of weight with me, because at some level, even some people don't know my name, which is funny. They don't know my first name. They call me Maymon, which is cool. I love it. If you know my name at any rate, I respect you, because at some level you really identify with me, and I think that's big. And so it's a lot of that, man.
Man, just being from Madison, and just being a minority, what is it like? How is it? Because me being myself, like, I'm trying to navigate through everything, and it's not easy because it's a lot of different influences. And so, like, did you use sports, or what was your way of just kind of staying who you are and being consistent, but also having character while doing it?
Yeah, I think you gotta really find something or someone to identify with, because a lot of times people go about life aimlessly, you know what I mean, and they don't have real substance that they're inputting in their system. It's like, because a lot of I think, like, what you listen to, who you surrounding yourself, what you watching, the conversations you having, what you scrolling on IG and all these socials, that's really programming your body. But believe it or not, your subconscious is one of the most powerful concepts that you have within you, outside of your spirit. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. It's like, if you don't really subconsciously feed yourself things that you want, that's gonna better yourself, you only gonna have negative things inside of you, and so that's what your brain gonna gravitate to. We all gravitate to the familiar, regardless of what we say, or what kind of happens in life. Like me being in the financial space, like I had a conversation all the time. You give two different people $1 million, they gonna regress to their habits. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no matter what, you would think they would both end up, in the same position, because they both got the same opportunity, but it don't really work that way. You know what I mean? So
how do you talk to your family, though? Because, like, me being, bro, I speak with proper English, just how I present myself is maybe not as urban. How do you influence, or how do you connect with your family, being like, maybe you're not as street as people would predict or expect you to be?
Well, I think a lot of times we like to give opinions on people, or like to point the finger at somebody, tell them what they're not doing, but we don't ask enough qualifying questions to actually realize if that's the answer or information you should be giving that person at that time in their life. Because at the end of the day, we all dealing with something. I was talking to my niece the other day, and she was talking to her brother, and I was just listening to their conversation. But they kind of got into a little spat, and he was like, he's only 8 now, and he was like, he's like, I did something. I did something, and she was like, no, you didn't. He was like, you don't know my life. I'm like, they together every day, all day. And he was like, I said, she don't know your life. He said, no, she don't know everything about me. And he's an 8-year-old saying that. So imagine, people that are adults that don't do the proper self-reflection to know themselves, and so it's a conversation where if you talking to your family and you got to figure out a way to communicate, you got to understand them, right? Because you may say, because you can articulate words, they may not understand them words. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes back to the point, like, how can you not project your own opinions on how you view life, but understand where they are and obviously help them where they at? I think that's the biggest part of communication. People are at different places, and we try to expect them to understand our opinion where we at, but they may not see that far.
No way.
You know what I mean? And I think any advice I can probably give you, man, is really just try to live your words, and then at some level show them, hey, here's what's been working for me, right? And I don't know if this will work for you, but here's some of the things that I've done. I think I don't talk at people. I talk with people.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you got any insight for me, I'm willing to take it. But I don't just offer insight to people because most people don't want to hear it.
So as being like the young athletes in Madison right now, what advice, what tips, like what would you tell them to, like, man, if you want to go to the NBA, this what you got to do, this how you got to live?
Yeah. I think, the biggest thing is your habits, man. Like, I think sports is great. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, sports is fantastic. But sports is a vehicle, like everything else, and you got to treat it as such, because at some level, that tenure, that career is going to end, and so you got to look at it as like, how much can I get out of it, and I tell people all the time, it's not what you get, but it's what you become from it. You know what I mean? I was just telling you that. It's like I got to see a lot of the world because of the basketball that I held in my hands, and I cherished it because it was an opportunity for me. I looked at it as an opportunity because it paid for a lot of things. It took me places and it helped me meet new people. And so outside of the basketball, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. And so I say, if you play in any sport, take it seriously. Like a lot of parents are paying for training for their children right now, and their kids don't even like the sport. You know what I mean? I think it's counterintuitive or counterproductive when you think about it. So I think the conversation needs to be, if you're gonna play, I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna empower you to be the best you can be while you gonna play it. And then if you're not gonna do that, we gonna move into something else.
Yep.
But I think sports is awesome. But I think you gotta find something one step further from sports. Like give it your end all be all. Focus on that right now. But then again, your career, whatever arena, it's only so long.
So what lessons have you learned in life that made you who you are?
Man, you hit me with these deep questions, bro. I ain't got that much time to really. No, I'm gonna give you like my authentic answers. Life teaches me lessons every day because I'm open to the opportunity of learning. Like I'm never closed off to an opportunity. I'm a mature man, but I move with a kid-like energy. And what I mean by that is, like, children, they're just, naive enough. They're just confident enough to believe that whatever reality that they have in their head that they can create in real time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if you talk to a kid, they believe they can be anything. Right, their dreams are just wildly unrealistic, and that's the way I move through life now. I still believe anything that I want, I can create. You know what I mean? Because it starts all right here. It's between the ears, and it really is as easy as that sounds. But then again, it goes back to what are you doing today that's gonna pay yourself dividends later? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not thinking with foresight, you actually losing, because right now the present is the only moment that we have. Literally. The past is history, right? We're making history right now today. Yep. Us being here having this conversation. In the future, whatever we choose to from this moment on, we gonna create that. You know what I'm saying? So why can't I have what I want? You know what I mean? So that's the lesson that life has kind of taught me.
What financial tips would you give somebody being like you? Trying to figure it out, and you don't really come from money, so you don't know how to manage money. I know how to spend money. I don't know how to save money. So what advice would you give somebody?
Everything that deals with money is a mental or an emotional heartstring attached to it. That's it. That's all. So if you can understand your relationship with money, then you can take it a step further and say, hey, how can I get into a position where I understand what's available to me? A lot of people, we don't have the conversations because it's always been taboo growing up. Like, I got a lot of great people in my life, but growing up, I never really had a conversation about money. You know what I'm saying? And I think at some level, we just push it to the back of our mind. We don't talk about it, but it's something that we think about all the time. I was always taught how to go get it, how to hustle, how to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? How to make ends meet, how to make it happen. But it's like, it goes from a scarcity mindset to more abundance. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how can you position yourself to want information and then go apply that information? I think I don't really want to get into a financial conversation now, but the biggest thing I can encourage people to do is go sit down with somebody that you trust or somebody that has information, but you also have to come with questions. You know what I mean? And if you say, like I said earlier, sometimes you don't know the questions that you need to ask, come and sit down and say, I want to figure out how I can become financially free. Right? And then we really talk through your habits. It's really one of those kind of conversations, man. And I think at some level you got to have the confidence to say, the life that I want is possible, but then you got to take the disciplined steps to go make it happen. And I think that's the biggest thing with financial, conversations that I'm having with my clients now is how disciplined can we be to get the things that we say we want in the most money efficient, time efficient way. And that's pretty much the bulk of it.
I just want kind of give you your flowers, man. As being, I really admire what you're doing, but also I just want you to know, like, man, there's people like myself that's looking up, and I don't have all the answers, but like seeing someone like yourself as an example, it helps so much. And I want you to always know, man, as a city, bro. I look at you as a celebrity, you a star. I was so excited to have this interview, but I'm gonna kind of follow it into like, bro. So right now, if we were to kind of put a perspective on your life, what skills do you have that separate you from somebody else?
I think the difference that allows me to operate at the level that I am, and obviously what I see my future growing into, is this. My ability to adapt. I think that's a skill that most people fail to realize. I think when you're growing in life, every stage of life is going to require a new you, right? And I think a lot of times we don't have the confidence that we got what it takes inside of us to be successful. And that kind of goes back to just what I posted earlier today, just something from my devotional, Revelations 3:8. You know what I mean? Like, God gonna open doors that nobody can close. You know what I mean? But the question that's posed at the end of that is, what opportunities have been opened for you, and have you walked through them yet? Right? And I think a lot of times opportunities present themselves day in, day out, right? Whether we walk through it or even just capitalize on the opportunity, that really differentiates where we are in our life to where we want to be. That's the gap right there. Like the opportunity, and then have you acted on that opportunity yet? Because I think at some level, things gonna work themselves out. You're gonna be who you're destined to be, but the timing of it is so the scale is sliding. You know what I'm saying? Because think about how many decisions we make on a daily basis. How many decisions you make, and one of those decisions can, change your trajectory to what your future was supposed to be tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's so crazy about the world. Like, you really gotta kind of take a step back and look at it for what it is. And it's like, it's not an if, but it's a when that you're gonna transition. And if you understand that concept of life, that this is the circle of it, this is the infinity loop of it, that competence loop, you really got to take advantage of the present moment. Because you'll let it slip, and then you'll be like, the opportunity ain't gonna never present itself, but then again, it may present itself in a different manner, but you're not even open to it. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of that, man.
And so I just want to ask one last question, bro. Have you thought about coaching?
Well, so I had the opportunity to coach. I got my master's at the University of Missouri.
Yep.
I'm very grateful for that. Coach Martin and his coaching staff allowed me to come in and print on some of those guys, and it was fantastic for those 2 years. But it was it was eye opening for me. You know what I mean? Because I'm a family man at heart, and I got a big family. And granted, I don't have any kids or a significant other at this particular moment. But it's one of those things. The decisions that I'm making now are going to be for their betterment in the future.
Yeah.
And I think coaching doesn't allow you to really immerse yourself into the family space because you're always gone, or you're always thinking about how can this next individual or athlete, help me keep or retain my job and or get me to the next one. And I don't like really being in that mind state when it comes to my day-to-day living, because it's a lot of one thing after the next. You know what I mean? You're traveling, you on to the next one, you on to the next scout. I enjoyed the experience to get to see what it takes to be a high-level D1 coach, but ultimately it's not for me in the way I want to proceed through my life.
Okay. Can I just challenge you, bro? Because I think you can have such a great impact in the city. But not only just you, I want to kind of put the same challenge out to the schools, the districts, the community leaders. Let's get him communicating with the youth, because he has so much information and he could be so vital to somebody's life, from that left turn or that right turn, because it's so easy to make one decision away from being taking advantage of your opportunities or maybe letting them slip away. So I just want to see him in a position where he could take advantage of his skills, abilities, and experiences, because a lot of that can help him navigate with the community and audience that we're looking to target, because right now gun violence is crazy, bro. It is crazy. So thank you guys. Thank you, Jeronne. I appreciate you, man. And